An Incisal X is applied just as quickly. This is our new liquid, our Incisal X. You probably already know our contrast set, the stains, the art elements, the dye liquids, and just like before sintering we now have something new, and that is the liquid Incisal X. Exactly, and we can use that if we want to specifically increase the translucency of Cube 1 ml and ZX color. Okay, I would say let's have a look. What are we hiding there? Yes, let's do a little unboxing. Exactly, so our very first one we have in here is our glaze. Then the liquid comes in later. Okay, a few drops of that will probably do the trick. Yes, right, it doesn't take much. Then that's frugal anyway. Exactly, then next we have applicators. We can already do that from the other liquids. We've always used it, I find it very practical personally. Yes, and last but not least we have the noble liquid in the glass bottle. Okay, cool. Paul, tell me about the liquids, so Incisal X. Yes, so basically we have two effects here. The first effect is, as we said, we use it on Cube 1. Cube 1 has a very high number of crack cells and a very high strength. As we know from the journal, there is the article K1C, the unknown key figure, a highly recommended one. Article. Yes, and that's just because of the tetragonal phase. However, this is not necessarily translucent now, but is the cubic phase that we need. And we can do that with the liquid. And it's just that, at the atomic level, we're bringing the atoms closer together. So we go from tetragonal to cubic, and with that we get more translucency. That's one effect. And the other effect is we get grain growth. Why is that important? It is well known that grain boundaries cause birefringence, and that creates a less translucent appearance in zirconium. So if we now make the grains grow, then we have less overall grain boundaries. That means we also have less birefringence, which means we have more translucency. And as you said, this information can of course also be found on our website, right? Exactly, you can find them on the website, and of course you can find all sorts of other things in the journal, including information about sintering and whatever else you can think of. Okay, that's very nice. I see that as very, very practical for Cube 1, for example, because Cube 1 is our universal material, so to speak. Correct. For example, for full jaws or for implant-supported work. Here is an example, implant-supported. Okay. I know that from the Cube 1 material, for example, which wasn't always so beautifully translucent in the front. What is natural normal? Yes, this isn't a Cube X, that's for sure. Okay. And for how many units are we allowed to use this? For 4 units that are side by side. Ideally, of course, you cleverly take the 1s and the 2s, because that's exactly where you want to have more translucency. We thought, what can we do if we still want to make horseshoes, but with better translucency in the 1s and 2s at the front? Yes, we developed this liquid here, and that's exactly what we apply to the 1s and the 2s. We don't need it on the threesomes, because they're thicker anyway. I mean, you're a dental technician, you know that, they're thicker and therefore not as translucent anyway, so the translucency of the Cube 1 is completely sufficient. Yes, that's right. That's correct. Then, I would say, let's try it out. So, Ballas, here we are. Then let's show you how we wear this thing. I agree. We have our liquid here, we have the applicator of course, we have this beautiful one. Glaze, and we have nicely milled a sample case. We are now, of course, in front of sintering, and so let's start. Correct. I agree. Yes, where do we start? Yes, it is very important that we definitely get the bottle first, but not only with the Incisal X, but always shake well with the other one anyway, with the art element or with all liquids, including the Martin liquids. Exactly, we have to shake very well. I mean, we want an even application of paint, and that's how we can ensure it. Precisely. And then of course, before I open the bottle, we have to mention gloves. We need them for zircon anyway, we already know that. Yes, we don't want any fat on it. Yes, and then later we would of course only have color problems, we definitely have to avoid fall. I agree. While we're here, definitely, I'd recommend some goggles. Self-protection, always very important. And then on top of that, we're all used to it by now, I would also recommend a mask. A protective mask is also good, and not just because of it, of course. Liquids, but here with the fakes. Yes, exactly. Preferably from Dental Direkt, of course. Exactly, we have that here too. Okay, now we're ready, I'll just open the bottle, and that's a nice way to dose it. That's right, a few drops are enough. The color is very nice, I find it very practical, this intense green color, because of course we can see immediately on which surface we have used the liquid. Dunk in a bit so that it gets overly wet. Then the tip can soak up nicely. Exactly, well, if that were too much, then you can also add a little bit here on the glass so that it isn't applied too much in one go. Yes, the practical experience. I agree. And so we go then. Yes, ballast, at the end we apply a total of 4 layers, and the layers are all on top of each other, so of course it's not completely congruent, it goes upwards. We are applying more and more layers, and then we can do that to record the natural translucency progression of the tooth. Exactly, we can now see how you apply the first layer, so it's also important to always take the incisor edge with you. It's easy to forget here, and of course we particularly need the translucency, that's where we want it. If you think of the natural tooth, that's where it's really translucent. Exactly, you can of course vary that in practice, depending on the situation. Of course, here we have relatively large front teeth in this case. And then I go from outside, then vocal, and of course now palatal again. It's a bit tricky, of course, because of the anatomy and morphology, but of course you can still apply it very nicely and very quickly and easily in the applicator. Exactly right. And the connectors, of course we don't paint them, because with the connectors we don't need a spherical phase, which is also much too far down. We don't need a higher translucency, they should stay nice and as they are. Exactly, that means you're doing a bit more intensely here right now, then they're called the sidebars, right? Exactly. Exactly, of course we also know that from the natural tooth, which becomes a bit thinner on the side, and then naturally the translucency is a bit higher. And that can also be beautifully reproduced and reproduced. Exactly, we did that once, then we'll do it again, now of course a little more in the Incisal X, so a little less, and that's our second shift now. Exactly, the second layer. Second shift. Yes, and as you can see, it's super fast, and once you've had a bit of practice, it's even faster, right? Let's do that now so that it also looks good in the video and you can really see clearly what you're doing. So, let's go palatal again, we can see the second layer. I agree. And at the end of the day it's really just a matter of tailoring, don't forget that, but as I said, we can see immediately where there are still small white spots, so we definitely have to work on them. Yes, the solar shows the opacity, that now really delivers its effect. I agree. And now the third layer. Exactly, it's advisable to take about an application width, right? Once outside, buccal and then palatal again. I actually have a green dot here, we shouldn't do that, yes. So, then I turn back to myself. Then we now have the first 3 layers, and the last layer just comes right over the third. It's also the case in natural teeth that you have the greatest translucency at the top and you get a nice, smooth gradient. I agree. And now exactly the same again, application width here on it. So, and now we turn around our bridge and then we do that again palatally on the inside and here really very carefully on the incisal. Yes. And then we're just done. And as always when working with liquid, don't forget to dry it. 10 to 30 minutes at 80 to 100 degrees in the convection oven are sufficient. Yes, ballish, that was the application. It's that quick, that easy. Yes, it wasn't that fast, but I mean, we've also made it extra slow now so that you can really see how it works. Yes, in any case. What do you think, how long does a dental technician need for such an element? So for an experienced dental technician I would say about 10 seconds per session, and for a complete job no more than 1 or 2 minutes. Yes, but I mean, you also have to do oral and residual work, that suits us, doesn't it? Exactly, definitely. Nevertheless, I find it very practical, very easy and very fast. Yes, that means you now have an example here with us. Precisely. So here, that's a very nice work, very nice example. Cube 1 multilayer, full jaw, implant work, of course, that's exactly what we've been talking about the whole time. Cube 1 multilayer in the front tooth area with Incisal X, also more translucent, of course, so that's what you need. So you can see really clearly where and how exactly, in which areas we are. Have used Incisal X, but what I wanted to ask from you, how does this affect liquid apprehension actually? Yes, of course that's a point, so we have more spherical fibers, we have slightly larger grains, these are both things that prefer lower strength, that is, but we're still at over 1000 megapascals, that means we are still miles away from being limited in any way in terms of indication, and we also subjected the liquid to an aging test, which means we did a chewing simulation at the University of Regensburg and over 1 million chewing cycles were carried out, and there was a temperature change and the whole thing was in water and we still came out with very, very good values, and of course we also documented everything neatly and cleanly and you can find everything on the homepage. Okay, very nice, but then, as I said, anyway, if something is changed in terms of fastening, we're safe anyway, because we've made sure that we don't use it with the connector, so nothing can happen then. That's right, so the connectors are also where the force has the worst effect, and I mean, they're not treated. So you have the complete strength and the complete fractional structure of Q1. Okay, very nice. How do you think we could sum this up? Yes, super translucent. Very fast, yes? Yes. Wow. Then we have everything there. Yes.